Most people who have read the book of Revelations know about the four horses of the apocalypse. There are all sorts of varying opinions and confusion as to what these horses represent. They accompany the first four of 7 seals that are recorded in Revelation chapter 6. The account of them is brought forth by the 4 living creatures that are referred to in the King James as the 4 beasts. Of the second seal, which is the red horse, the second beast said, "Come and see." And John recorded what he saw. He said in Revelation 6:4, "And there went out another horse that was red, and it was given to him that sat thereon to take peace," or to take quietness, "from the earth, in order that they will kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword." Things are going to seriously change on the world scene when this person is given power from above. What would the people of the world do if the date that this person was to be given this power was made available to them? Would they turn to their Creator and cry out to Him and plead with Him? Would they turn to His way of life if He would refrain from giving this man power? The answer is no. Those of you that are in the scattered nations of Israel have known that this day is coming, and you have not made such a cry to your Maker. Maybe you have asked Him to spare the world or something like this, but you have not turned to Him according to His word so that He would even hear your prayers anyway. And if you have asked Him to spare the world from the coming time of affliction, why would you even ask such a prayer when the world is how it is today? Don't you want His will to be done on earth as it is in heaven? And why would He hear your prayers anyway if you yourself will not hearken to His word? We recorded in Proverbs that if you turn your ear from His Torah, even your prayers are an abomination to Him. You might want to ask yourself why the world is in the shape that it is in today, that is causing Him to have to destroy most of its inhabitants. The answer is because even though our fathers rejected His word, most would not return to Him, even though He sent His Son to die on our behalf. And the scattered tribes of Israel did not take His truth that He died for to the world like we were commanded to do. Instead, most of you have chosen to believe in the lie that you will get whisked away before the destruction comes. And even if this was true, which is not, why wouldn't you still have taken His warning and His truth to the world if you believed that the coming time of destruction was coming? Don't you care about others in the world enough? Why aren't you taking this warning along with His truth that will set the world free from the bondage of Satan now, today? After all, most of you listening to this certainly believe that we are fast approaching the day of our Creator's wrath. No, the date of the second horse of war, the coming time of destruction being sent forth, would not matter to most of you stiff-necked, rebellious people because you are full of arrogance and self-righteousness. You think that you already have the truth even though you don't obey hardly anything that our Creator told us to obey. You think that you have His grace or His favor even though His word says plainly that you do not. This is plainly recorded in Jeremiah chapter 16. Verse 11, He said, "Then say to them, in the same manner that your fathers forsook me, says Yahweh, and walked after other versions of Elohim, and served them, and worshipped them, and forsook me, and did not keep, or did not hedge about, or guard my Torah. You have done worse than your fathers," He says. "Behold, each of you walks after the obstinacy of your own evil hearts, and you fail to hearken to me. Therefore I cast you out of the land and into a land that you and your fathers did not know, and there you served other Elohims day and night, where I did not give you my favor or my grace." And it's clear that even elsewhere, this is recorded so many times, that this would happen, that they would be sent to serve other Elohims. Most of you are so full of pride and arrogance that you cannot see that this applies to you. Most of you in Christianity will not even acknowledge that you are the descendants of the scattered nations of Israel, even though I have given you proof in my Father's word that you are. There are several prophecies that prove that you are, and in the last couple of weeks I've been speaking of the irrefutable proof that is found in Deuteronomy chapter 30. He was telling them that if they departed from His word, that He would scatter them, just as He said He would do here in verse 13. But even after he scattered them, he said that they could return to him through his word if they would. He said that he would take you back, and here are the conditions that he gave in order for this to happen. In Deuteronomy 30, starting verse 10, if you will hearken to the voice of Yahweh Elohim and guard or hedge about his commandments and his statutes which are written in this scroll of the Torah, making no doubt about what he's talking about, and if you will turn to Yahweh Elohim with all of your heart and with your entire life, he said this is the condition that he has to take you back. And he says, because these commandments which I command you this day are not wondrous works, he said, and they're not too difficult, neither are they removed from you. And this is huge what he's saying here. He made sure that the children of Israel would have his commandments that are in his Torah available to them if they wanted to return to him. The reason that he kept his instructions with us is we must return to him through them. Scripture is extremely clear about this. It's impossible to refute. Yeshua shed his blood to make this possible. Christianity carries his Torah around with them in their Bibles, but they reject it. They have it available to them just as he said that they would, but this has not mattered to most of you. Who else could this promise apply to? What other group of people or religious group matches this description that has his Torah available to him this day? He did not leave returning to him up to guesswork. He told us how to return to him. He goes on to say in verse 12, they, referring to his commandments that are in his Torah, he says, are not in heaven that you will have to say, who will go up to heaven for us to bring them to us so that we can hear them and do them? Neither are they across the sea that you will have to say, who will go over the sea for us to bring them to us so that we can hear them and do them? I will make my word exceedingly near to you, in your mouth and in your heart. This ties directly in with the new covenant that Jeremiah goes on to speak about later in chapter 31. He recorded that he would write his Torah in our hearts and in our inward parts. These prophecies are not speaking about a different Torah. If they were, what Torah are they speaking about? To say so is so willfully rebellious that I cannot even think of words that can describe your uncircumcised heart. Yeshua said that he did not come to get rid of one punctuation mark from the law until heaven and earth pass away. What law do you think that he was talking about? Was it a different law than Malachi recorded when he said that Yahweh would send his servant in the spirit of Elijah to tell you to remember the Torah of Moses with the statutes and judgments? He said that this servant would be sent before the day of his judgment, and he made it clear which Torah that he was talking about. Why don't you believe him? It is because you don't want to believe anything that is in what you call the Bible besides the blasphemous lies of Saul of Tarsus that your fathers put right alongside his set-apart scriptures. You believe Saul and his followers' writings because in them you can justify your rebellious, stiff-necked, uncircumcised hearts. The four horses of the apocalypse are galloping your way, but you have no fear because you have given yourselves courage by getting drunk with the wine of fornication. You are so intoxicated with the lies that you live that you cannot even see that my Father is sending a double portion of his wrath to you to recompense you for your adultery to him, your whoredom. The red horse that I am sent to speak to you about today, of this red horse, he is warning us that there is going to be a terrible time of war and destruction coming like none other in the history of man, with man killing one another. Most can see the civil unrest that has been brewing throughout the world, and there are always wars and there are already wars that are emerging from it, from this civil unrest. And there certainly have been wars and rumors of wars, but this time has not been let loose like it's going to be. There's also more that is associated with the red horse than just war. There is another place in the scriptures that the red horse is mentioned in regards to the time that we live in Zechariah 1, starting in verse 7. On the 24th day of the 11th month, which is in the month of Sebat, in the second year of Darius, Yahweh's word came to Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, the son of Edu, the prophet, saying, I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse, and he stood among the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, and behind him were red and white and bay horses. Then I said, Adown, what are these? And the angel spoke to me, I will show you what these are. I will give you some trivia here today. The 24th day of the 11th month this year lands on the 17th day of February 2012. This just happens to be exactly 100 days from November 9th, when the 150 days of torment was to begin. The 5 months began on this date, but the time of torment is being held back for the elect's sake, just as the rest of the time of affliction is being held back, and just as Yeshua prophesied it would be. Our Creator has explained that the elect that Yeshua was referring to, that the days would be shortened for, are those who have or will yet turn to Him and to His Father after the sealing of the last of the 144,000. It's already happened. There's already been some that are returning to Him since then. This is easily proven because those who are of the 144,000 who are still alive at this time are already sealed anyway. So if trouble was to befall them and kill them, they would be resurrected into spirit beings next July anyway, so it would not matter. The days would not need to be shortened for this group of people. Speaking of the 144,000, it has already been revealed that there will be 153 who will still be alive in the flesh when Yeshua returns to harvest them. Do you want to take a stab at how many days away February 17th is from July 19th when He will return? I will just tell you, there are exactly 153 days. Maybe some of you who have been watching these videos can chalk all of these numbers that our Creator has given to us up to coincidences, but I do not have that kind of imagination. I said that February 17th is 100 days from November 9th, and previously have spoken that November 9th is 150 days or 5 months from the anniversary of the first Exodus. This would make this date exactly 2/3 of the way through the 150 days that were allotted for the time of torment. This is very interesting in lieu of all of the prophecies that are associated with the end times in the book of Revelations and in Ezekiel with the third parts that are mentioned in these books. The angel goes on to describe these horses that Zechariah was shown. Verse 10, and the man that stood among the myrtle trees answered and said, These are they whom Yahweh had sent to and fro throughout the earth. And they answered Yahweh's angel and stood among the myrtle trees and said, We have walked to and fro through the earth, and behold, all of the earth sits quiet, or all of the earth sits at rest. What is he talking about at rest? He certainly is not talking about a time when there is not going to be turmoil in the earth, because nations are coming unglued at the seams, and the birth pains have already begun to be increased, and they will continue to increase. For those of you who have been listening for a while, if you remember back, our Creator told us that the 4 angels of the 6th trumpet were let loose on June 12th, and that this also was the time when His 7 spirits went out to the whole world. But who has received them? I have only heard from a very small flock who have so far, that have contacted me. The 4 messengers that were let loose to prepare for a third of the world to be slain. Our Creator is showing that the 7 seals tie in with the 7 trumpets. In Zechariah's vision, these 4 messengers are reporting back to the archangel that they are saying that no one else will receive his 7 spirits without great affliction. They are saying that all who are left are at ease, or they will need to be shook. Zechariah goes on to add, verse 12, Then Yahweh's angel answered and said, Yahweh of hosts, how long before you will not have compassion on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, which you have had indignation with these 70 years? And Yahweh answered and spoke to the angel with pleasing and comforting words. And the angel spoke to me and said, Cry out and say, Thus says Yahweh of hosts, I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy. The 70 years spoken of here is symbolic of the 70 years that Judah was sent into captivity to Babylon. In like manner, all of Israel, including Benjamin and Judah, later were sent into captivity into spiritual Babylon. These 70 years are also symbolic of the time that he brought back a people who are not a people to him, to the physical land that is known as Israel today. When he did this, it was symbolism to mark a final countdown. He said that this generation would not pass until the end would come. So it was not to be exactly 70 years from this time, because during this time, we're still in the time that no man knew the day or the hour. In the beginning of man's time here on earth, when he was populating the world, the life of a man could last up to, or at least close to, 1,000 years. But after the flood, it was recorded that during the days that Abraham lived, the average generation was reduced to 120 years. And then when King David ruled, our Creator said that the average length of a man's age was shortened to 70 years. Even today's statistics show that the average lifespan is still right at 70 years. But it has not quite been 70 years since those who returned back to Israel began to be brought back. From next year, it will have only been 64 years. These days are being shortened as they were prophesied to, and our Creator has sent me to make this cry to you. He is jealous for his people to return to him. He is crying out to you to turn to him. He wants to deliver you. He wants to mold and fashion you in his image so that he can give you eternal life in his family. He wants you in his family forever. He does not want to send the time of correction, but in order for him to bring you into his family, most of you are leaving him no choice. He is making this cry to you this day to repent and to turn from your rebellion. He goes on to say in verse 15, I have great wrath and am wroth because you are at ease or haughty toward him. But I will be wroth with the Gentiles, even though they helped with some of the affliction. There is much being said in this prophecy. This verse ties in with other prophecies that he is going to send a double portion of his wrath to the scattered tribes of Israel in order to humble them, because he is wroth with them. And he is going to once again use other nations in this process to help him, as he has done in times past when he empowered other nations to smote our ancestors. But he is still wroth with them as well. And his love and compassion for the descendants of Abraham will be poured out on the remnant that will turn to him. Verse 16, Therefore thus says Yahweh, my compassion will return to Jerusalem. My house will be built in it, he says Yahweh of hosts, and a line will be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. He is referring to his temple, or the 144,000 that were built with his measuring rod, that will be set up in Jerusalem when they return with his son to Jerusalem. And he will continue to build his house with his measuring rod into the millennium. Verse 17, continue to cry out, saying, Thus says Yahweh of hosts, I will still scatter their beautiful cities, and they will be sorrowed. And Yahweh will still choose Zion and Jerusalem. He is going to show his favor to those who will return to him. When he has finished chastising the scattered nations of Israel, there is going to be a second Exodus, and he is going to return the remnant that will turn to him to the land of Israel. And the other nations will be brought low, and they will be sorrowed. They will be shown his hand of deliverance to his remnant. And those who will choose what he is offering will be delivered through these last days as well. What he is revealing today in lieu of this red horse that Zechariah is speaking of is that we are nearing a point in time when the 4 messengers that were let loose out of the river Euphrates on June 12th are about ready to report back to him that the whole earth is at ease. They will be saying that when they make this report that they have went through the whole earth and prepared it for war, and there is no one else who will receive his 7 spirits without a time of great calamity. He is sending forth this information today as a cry to a people to return to him. But even if this time was 1,000 years away, Why not return to Him just because of what He is offering you anyway? Why not return to Him because you love Him and you want Him to make you in His image? You want to spend eternity with Him. I will tell you why most of you will not. It is because you love your lives more than you want to be in His family. You do not want His righteousness because it would infringe on your lives too much. You do not want to leave your life for His kingdom's sake. There is much more that is being said with this prophecy as he goes on to speak of the four horns that scattered Israel. And he speaks more of the measuring line that his temple was to be measured with, and ties this all in together with the plummet that was given to Zerubbabel. This measuring line is the same reed that the Apostle John recorded as the reed that the temple was measured with. I'm going to stop here today, though. The four horses are galloping onto the scene. The four messengers are getting ready to report back, and the World War III will erupt. There's going to be much calamity here, along with all of the natural disasters and everything that will be empowered to be brought to the world through His witness. Will this begin on February 17th, or will it begin sooner? Or will this date be when the torment begins? From the looks of how things are escalating on the world scene, it is hard to imagine that it can be held back for another 87 days, but if our Creator is going to hold it back, He will. We are already 13 days into the 5 months. Another interesting date is the first 1/3 of this time ends on December 29th, and the following day is the 5th day of the 10th month in our Creator's calendar. After Ezekiel recorded the account of the watchman and the terms of warning the people in chapter 33, he said that one escaped out of Jerusalem and said that the city is smitten. But the reality is that me giving you exact dates of exact events would not matter to most of you anyway. I have given the exact date of Yeshua's return, and this has not even rocked most of your boats in one way whatsoever. You have continued in your rebellion. Most of the nearly 7,000 people who have been to this YouTube channel have merely scoffed at it. As small as this number is, it is a witness in and of itself of how people scoff at the truth. Today we are only 240 days from next July 19th, and much is going to happen in these remaining days when our Creator stops holding it back. Sadly, it will take the much calamity that is coming just to get a remnant of Israel to obey their Creator. If you cannot hear the thundering hooves of the red horse of war heading your way, you have certainly covered your ears. Yeshua suggests that you anoint your eyes with eye salve, and the black horse of famine is thundering right behind Him.